The afternoon was falling over New York City with that golden luminosity that only autumn can gift. Rebecca Morgan gazed from the window of her apartment in Greenwich Village as the ginkgo trees shed their last yellow leaves, creating an ephemeral carpet over the sidewalks of Bleecker Street. At 35 years old, life had taught her that solitude wasn't always synonymous with sadness, but neither was it with fulfillment. She worked as a freelance graphic designer, a profession that allowed her to combine her passion for art with the freedom she so valued. Her days flowed between sketches, coffee at corner cafes in Soho, and long walks through Central Park. She had built a quiet, ordered, predictable existence, perhaps too predictable. Her younger sister, Emily, often insisted that she should get out more, meet new people, dare to live different experiences. "You're not 35 every day, Becca. Life passes faster than you think," she repeated with that mixture of concern and affection that only a sister can have. It was precisely Emily who convinced her to join a book club that met every 2 weeks at a bookstore in the West Village. "It's perfect for you. They talk about books, drink coffee, meet interesting people. What could go wrong?" she had argued enthusiastically. Rebecca agreed more to please her sister than out of genuine interest. However, those meetings became one of the most anticipated moments of her month. The group was small but diverse: university professors, aspiring writers, students passionate about literature. They discussed everything from Fitzgerald to Toni Morrison, from Hemingway to contemporary authors exploring new narratives. For months, Rebecca enjoyed those literary gatherings with no more pretension than sharing her love of books. Until October arrived, and the group's coordinator, Patricia, announced a special activity. "Everyone, to celebrate our anniversary, we're organizing a different kind of gathering. It'll be at the Garden Cafe in the West Village. Each member can invite someone special, and we'll have an evening of shared readings under the stars in the garden. It'll be next Saturday." The proposal was received with general enthusiasm. Rebecca felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness. She liked the idea, but had no one to invite. Her closest friends were busy with their own families, and most didn't share her passion for reading. CTA. If you're enjoying this story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and give this video a thumbs up. I'd also love to know what city you're watching from. Leave it in the comments. In the days leading up to the gathering, Rebecca was tempted to cancel. The idea of arriving alone while others shared with their guests made her feel uncomfortable. But she finally decided to go. "I don't need company to enjoy something I love," she told herself in front of the mirror as she got ready that Saturday afternoon. She chose a simple wine-colored dress, pulled her hair into a casual bun, and grabbed her favorite copy of The Great Gatsby for the shared reading. The Garden Cafe was only 30 minutes by subway from her apartment. As she traveled in the car, she watched the families, the young couples holding hands, the groups of friends laughing together. The West Village welcomed her with its characteristic bohemian atmosphere. The tree-lined streets, the colorful facades, the street musicians playing folk songs on every corner. The Garden Cafe was a charming place, with an indoor garden lit by strings of warm lights and wrought iron tables distributed under an old oak tree. When she arrived, several members of the group were already there, accompanied by their guests. Patricia had decorated the space with scented candles and small signs with literary quotes. The atmosphere was magical, perfect for a special evening. Rebecca greeted her reading companions, exchanged some kind words, but soon reality became evident. She was the only one who had arrived without company. She tried not to give it importance, poured herself a coffee, and looked for a quiet table in a corner of the garden, near a planter full of autumn chrysanthemums. She opened her book, pretending to be absorbed in reading, but in reality, she was deeply aware of her solitude. Around her, conversations flowed, laughter intertwined with the sound of water from a small fountain. Everyone seemed to be in their place, everyone except her. Then it happened. When she looked up from the pages, she noticed that at the adjacent table, A woman had arrived accompanied by a girl of approximately 6 years old. The woman was elegant without being ostentatious, with dark hair pulled back in a side braid and dark eyes that reflected intelligence and warmth. She wore a mustard-colored sweater and jeans and carried several books under her arm. The little one, for her part, was an explosion of energy. She had the same dark hair as her mother, tied in 2 pigtails with colorful ribbons, and her curious eyes observed everything with childish wonder. She wore a dress with a butterfly print and sneakers full of glittery stickers. Rebecca watched them discreetly as they settled in. The woman seemed to be looking for something with her gaze, perhaps someone specific. She checked her cell phone a couple of times, with an expression that moved between hope and disappointment. The girl, oblivious to any tension, pulled out a drawing notebook from her backpack and began to color with crayons. 10 minutes passed, then 15. The woman ordered hot chocolate for her daughter and chamomile tea for herself. She occasionally looked toward the cafe entrance, but whoever she was waiting for evidently wouldn't arrive. Rebecca recognized that expression. It was the same one she had had on other occasions when someone canceled plans at the last moment. Disappointment trying to disguise itself as indifference. The effort to maintain composure, while the heart contracted a little. The literary evening was about to begin. Patricia gave the official welcome, explained the dynamics of shared readings, and proposed that each couple or group present themselves briefly. Rebecca felt her stomach tighten. Soon it would become evident that she was completely alone. It was then that something unexpected happened. The little girl from the adjacent table stood up from her chair, walked directly to Rebecca with the confidence that only children possess, and with a smile that lit up her entire face, asked a question that would change the course of that night, and perhaps the course of many nights to come. "You're alone, right?" the girl asked with total naturalness, tilting her head with curiosity. There wasn't a hint of malice in her voice, just an innocent observation expressed with the disconcerting honesty of childhood. Rebecca blinked, surprised by the direct question. "Yes, I am," she responded with a kind smile, not knowing exactly where this conversation was headed. The girl nodded seriously, as if she had just confirmed an important hypothesis. "My mom, too. The person who was coming couldn't make it. Mom says it's okay, but I think she's sad." Before Rebecca could respond, the little one spun on her heels and ran back to her table. The scene that followed was adorable, and at the same time touching. The girl took her mother's hand and began to pull her with determination, pointing toward where Rebecca was. The woman tried to resist, clearly embarrassed, but the little one was insistent. Finally, both approached Rebecca's table. The woman had slightly flushed cheeks, and in her eyes there was a mixture of apology and shyness. "I'm so sorry," the woman began with a soft but clear voice. "My daughter Emma can be a bit direct. I hope she didn't bother you." "Not at all," Rebecca responded sincerely, feeling something in her chest loosen. Actually, such honesty is refreshing. Emma, without waiting for more formal invitations, announced with the authority of an experienced diplomat. "You're alone. My mom's alone. Why don't you sit together? That way nobody's alone. It's simple." The childish logic was irrefutable. Both women looked at each other and, almost simultaneously, shared a soft laugh that broke any tension. It was impossible to resist the sweet manipulation of that little one. "If you don't mind the company," the woman began to say. "It would be a pleasure," Rebecca interrupted, gesturing toward the empty chairs at her table. "Please." And so it was that Sarah Mitchell and her daughter Emma ended up sitting next to Rebecca Morgan at that table under the oak tree at the Garden Cafe. What began as a gesture of kindness mediated by a perceptive girl soon transformed into a conversation that flowed with surprising ease. Sarah was a literature teacher at a public high school in Brooklyn. She was 37 years old, a single mother since Emma was 2 years old, and had dedicated her life to balancing motherhood with her passion for teaching. Patricia, the book club coordinator, was her colleague at the school and had invited her to the evening. "My sister was supposed to come," Sarah explained while Emma happily colored in her notebook, now completely satisfied with her accomplished mission. "But her baby got sick at the last moment. Nothing serious, just a cold, but she couldn't leave him. I told her it was fine, but Emma is very perceptive," Rebecca completed, looking at the little one with affection. "Too much, sometimes," Sarah admitted with a smile that mixed pride and resignation. "She always notices everything. It's hard to hide things from her." The literary evening officially began, but for Rebecca, Sarah, and Emma, the main event was the conversation they had started. They discovered they shared favorite authors. Both adored Virginia Woolf, felt fascination for Maya Angelou, and had cried with To Kill a Mockingbird. Sarah had a way of talking about literature that was contagious. She didn't just mention the books, she lived them. Her eyes lit up when she described a particularly beautiful scene. Her hands moved expressively when she explained the construction of a complex character. Rebecca, for her part, shared how design and literature intertwined in her work. She showed on her phone some recent projects. Book covers she had designed, illustrations inspired by poems, complete editorial projects. "It's beautiful," Sarah murmured as she observed the images on the cell phone screen. "You give visual form to the emotions that writers create with words. It's like translating between two languages of the soul." No one had described her work that way. Rebecca felt something warm expand in her chest. It wasn't just the compliment, but the deep understanding behind those words. Emma, meanwhile, had established her own territory at the table. She had her crayons perfectly organized, her notebook open to an elaborate drawing of what appeared to be a garden full of butterflies and giant flowers. She occasionally interrupted the adults' conversation to show her artistic progress. "Mommy, look, this butterfly is for you," she said, pointing to an especially large one with brightly colored wings. "And this other one is for Miss Rebecca, because now she's our friend." Each time the little one made these declarations, Sarah tried to correct her gently. "Emma, honey, we just met. You shouldn't assume." But Rebecca interrupted her kindly. "I'd love to be Emma's friend. And yours too, if you'll let me." Sarah's cheeks colored each time their gazes met. There was something in Rebecca's eyes, a quiet depth, a genuine kindness, that made her feel safe in a way she hadn't experienced in a long time. The evening continued its course. Some people from the book club came up to share fragments of their favorite works. A university professor read a passage from F. Scott Fitzgerald. A student shared a poem by Emily Dickinson. Patricia delighted everyone with a fragment from Beloved by Toni Morrison. When it was Sarah's turn, she took one of the books she had brought. "This is a fragment from The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath," she announced. "I've always been moved by Esther's courage, her search for herself in a world that constantly tried to define her. Her voice when reading was melodious, full of emotional nuances." Rebecca listened completely absorbed, not only by Plath's words, but by the passion with which Sarah pronounced them. There was something magnetic about watching her, in the way her lips formed each syllable, in how her eyes shone with the intensity of the narrative. When she finished, warm applause ran through the cafe garden. Sarah returned to her seat with a modest smile, and Emma applauded with so much enthusiasm that her pigtails bounced. "Now you, Rebecca," the little one encouraged with her characteristic boldness. Rebecca hadn't planned to participate, but the expectation in Emma's eyes and Sarah's encouraging look propelled her. She took her copy of The Great Gatsby and chose one of her favorite passages, the one where Nick Carraway describes his first impression of Gatsby's parties. As she read, she could feel Sarah's attention on her, and that made her feel nervous and excited at the same time. When she finished, the silence that followed was one of those born from respect and genuine appreciation. The night advanced, and the garden of the Garden Café filled with the magic that only good literature and the best company can create. The weeks that followed that gathering in the West Village transformed Rebecca's routine in ways she never would have imagined. What began as an exchange of phone numbers at the end of that literary evening quickly evolved into daily messages, nighttime calls, and increasingly frequent meetings. Sarah had the gift of making the simplest conversations feel meaningful. They could talk for hours about a book, a movie, or simply about how their day had gone. There was a genuine connection between them, an ease of communication that Rebecca hadn't experienced before. Emma, of course, became the little involuntary accomplice of that approach. Every time Sarah mentioned she had plans with Rebecca, the girl insisted on accompanying them. "She's my friend too," and she declared with the seriousness of someone defending an inalienable right. Their outings became a Saturday tradition. They visited museums in Manhattan, walked through Central Park, got ice cream in the Village while Emma ran ahead chasing pigeons. On one memorable occasion, the three attended a puppet show at Bryant Park, and Rebecca discovered that laughing while watching the wonder in the little one's eyes was one of the most gratifying experiences she had lived. Emily, Rebecca's sister, noticed the change immediately. "You're different," she said during one of their weekly dinners at the family home in the Upper West Side. "More luminous. What's happening?" Rebecca tried to minimize the importance. "I've just made a new friend. We get along well, that's all." But Emily knew her too well. "Becca, your eyes shine every time you mention Sarah, and you check your phone every 5 minutes. That's not just friendship." The observation caught her off guard. Was it true? Had her feelings evolved beyond simple friendship? Rebecca spent the following nights awake, analyzing every conversation, every shared look, every accidental touch of hands when they walked through the park. The truth was yes. What she felt for Sarah had grown silently, like a plant that suddenly blooms and you realize it had been gestating underground for a while. She admired her intelligence, her passion for teaching, the loving dedication with which she raised Emma. But beyond admiration, there was something deeper, an emotional attraction that made her want to be close, to know her more, to share not just Saturdays but every possible moment. The problem was that Rebecca didn't know if Sarah felt the same. Maybe for her they were just friends. Maybe the connection Rebecca perceived was only a product of her hopeful imagination. The uncertainty tormented her, but at the same time, filled her with an emotion she hadn't experienced in years. One November afternoon, while Rebecca was working on the design of an advertising campaign in her apartment, she received an unexpected message from Sarah. "Are you busy? I need advice about something important." Rebecca responded immediately. "I'm never too busy for you. Want to meet up? Could it be at your apartment? Emma's with my mom this afternoon. I'd prefer to talk in private." Rebecca's heart began to beat faster. It was the first time they would be completely alone, without Emma's adorable presence mediating between them. "Of course, I'll wait for you." An hour later, Sarah arrived at her apartment in Greenwich Village. Rebecca had prepared coffee and cookies, trying to calm her nerves while she waited. When she opened the door, she found Sarah with an expression that was a mix of anxiety and determination. "Thank you for receiving me," Sarah said as she entered. She wore a brown sweater and jeans, her hair loose over her shoulders instead of her usual braid. She looked beautiful and vulnerable. They sat in the small living room, with the windows open, letting in the cool afternoon air. For the first few minutes, the conversation was superficial, as if both were avoiding getting to the real purpose of that meeting. Finally, Sarah took a deep breath. "Rebecca, I want to talk to you about something that's been keeping me up at night." "You can tell me anything," Rebecca responded, trying to keep her voice steady despite the whirlwind she felt inside. Sarah looked at her hands, joining and separating her fingers nervously. "These last 2 months have been special, very special. Emma adores you and I also enjoy our time together very much, perhaps too much. Rebecca felt her breath stop. What do you mean by too much? I mean that lately I find myself thinking about you every moment. When I read something interesting, my first impulse is to share it with you. When I see something beautiful, I want you to be there to see it with me. And when Emma asks when we'll see you again, I realize I'm asking myself the same question. The words hung suspended in the air between them, loaded with meaning. Rebecca could hear the beating of her own heart. Sarah continued, now looking directly into her eyes. I've been afraid to say this. Afraid of ruining the friendship we've built. Afraid of misinterpreting the signals. But more than that, I'm afraid of keeping silent and always wondering what would have happened if... Sarah, Rebecca whispered, feeling all the emotions contained for weeks struggling to come out. You're not misinterpreting anything. Sarah's eyes opened with surprise and hope. Really? Really, Rebecca confirmed, taking Sarah's hands in hers. I've also been thinking about you constantly. I also wait for our meetings as if they were the most important thing of my week. And I've also wondered if what I feel could be something more. A smile began to form on Sarah's face, a smile that was pure, released happiness. And what do you feel? Rebecca took a deep breath, gathering all her courage. I feel that when I'm with you, everything makes more sense. I feel that your laughter is the most beautiful sound I've heard. I feel that I'm falling in love with you, Sarah. With your intelligence, with your kindness, with the wonderful mother you are, with everything you are. Tears began to roll down Sarah's cheeks, but they were tears of joy. I'm falling in love with you too. I think I started that night at the cafe, when I heard your voice reading Fitzgerald and felt my heart recognize something my mind didn't yet understand. There were no grand dramatic declarations after that. Just the complicit silence of two people who had finally dared to be honest about their feelings. They remained seated on that couch, with their hands intertwined, smiling like teenagers who had just discovered a wonderful secret. And now what do we do? Sarah asked after a while, with a mixture of emotion and nervousness. Now? Rebecca responded with tenderness. Now we give ourselves permission to explore this. No pressure, no impossible expectations. Just see where it takes us. I like that plan, Sarah said, resting her head on Rebecca's shoulder. Although I should warn you that it comes with a very opinionated 6-year-old girl included in the package. Rebecca laughed softly. Emma was the one who brought us together in the first place. I think she already knew something that took us weeks to discover. The afternoon transformed into evening as they talked about their hopes, their fears, their dreams. They talked about the importance of going slow, of being honest, of taking care of both Emma's heart and their own. The following weeks were a period of beautiful and sometimes complicated discovery. Rebecca and Sarah decided to take things slowly, especially considering that Emma was involved. They didn't want to confuse the little one or rush something that was still finding its own rhythm. For Emma, initially, there was no big visible change. Rebecca continued to be her special friend, that fun person who took her to the park, taught her to draw using professional design techniques, and always had patience to listen to her stories about school. What did change was the nature of the encounters between Rebecca and Sarah when they were alone. Now there was a different intimacy in their conversations, in the way they looked at each other, in the comfortable silences they shared. There were stolen kisses in the kitchen while preparing dinner, hugs that lasted a little longer than necessary, looks that communicated more than 1,000 words. Rebecca discovered facets of Sarah she hadn't known before. Her love for cooking traditional American dishes on Sundays, her habit of writing poetic notes on small papers that she left hidden for Rebecca to find, her way of falling asleep on the couch when she read after an exhausting day at the high school. Sarah, for her part, marveled at Rebecca's constant creativity, at her ability to find beauty in the simplest details, at her willingness to genuinely get involved in Emma's life. She watched her helping the girl with her school projects, transforming simple tasks into artistic adventures that left the little one ecstatic. However, not everything was simple. Both faced their own fears and doubts. Sarah worried about how her family would receive the news of their relationship. She came from a traditional environment in rural Pennsylvania, where she had grown up with certain expectations about how her life should be. Although she had lived independently in New York for years, the weight of those family expectations continued to be significant. "My mom constantly asks when I'm going to rebuild my life," Sarah confided one night while they dined at a small comfort food restaurant in Chelsea. "Always with the image of a man who will complete our family. I don't know how I'll explain that I've found something much more real and meaningful with a woman." Rebecca took her hand across the table. "You don't have to rush. When it's the right time, the words will come. And if you need support, I'll be with you." Rebecca also had her own insecurities. She had never been in a relationship that involved a child, and sometimes she questioned whether she was up to the circumstances. Was she mature enough? Was she prepared to be an important figure in Emma's life? What would happen if things didn't work out? She didn't want to hurt that girl who had come to occupy such a special place in her heart. "Sometimes I feel like I should have more answers," she confessed to Emily during one of their coffee sessions. "Sarah is a mother. She has responsibilities that go far beyond what I've experienced. What if I'm not what Emma needs?" Emily, always pragmatic but caring, responded with wisdom. "Becca, nobody has all the answers when it comes to relationships or children. What's important is that you care enough to ask yourself those questions. That already says a lot about you." The real turning point came in December, when Emma had her winter festival at school. It was an important event for the little one. She had been rehearsing for weeks for a play where she played an angel. "Will you come see me?" Emma asked Rebecca with hopeful eyes during an afternoon of hot chocolate at Sarah's apartment. "Mom's already going, but I want you to be there too. All my friends bring their families." The word family hung in the air, heavy with meaning. Rebecca looked at Sarah, seeking guidance. Sarah nodded softly, leaving the decision in Rebecca's hands. "I'd love to be there," Rebecca responded, feeling that something important had just changed in the dynamics of their relationship. On the day of the festival, Rebecca arrived at the school auditorium with a small bouquet of flowers for Emma. Sarah was already there, saving seats. When Rebecca sat next to her, Sarah discreetly took her hand, intertwining their fingers. It was a simple gesture, but in that public context, it meant a lot. The play was charming, with all the adorable mistakes that characterize children's school productions. Emma was radiant with her angel wings made of cardboard and glitter, and when it was her moment to say her lines, she searched with her gaze for her mother and Rebecca among the audience. Upon finding them, her smile widened so much she almost forgot to continue with her part. After the performance, Emma ran toward them with her wings bouncing awkwardly on her back. "I did well, right? Did you see me? I almost forgot my part when I saw all those people." Sarah hugged her with maternal pride. "You were perfect, my love. It was beautiful." Emma then turned to Rebecca. "Did you like it too?" "You were the best angel I've ever seen in my life," Rebecca responded honestly, offering her the small bouquet of flowers. "These are for you." The girl's eyes lit up. "Flowers. Mommy, Rebecca brought me flowers, like when you go to a real theater." What followed was unexpected. One of the teachers approached to congratulate Emma, and seeing the group, commented casually, "How nice that the whole family could come to support you, Emma." Emma, without hesitating for a second, responded with the naturalness characteristic of childhood. "Yes, my mom and Rebecca came. They both helped me practice my lines at home." The teacher smiled and went on her way, but those words resonated deeply with Rebecca and Sarah. "They both," Emma had said. "Not my mom and her friend, but they both. As if they were a unit, a team, a family." That night, after putting Emma to bed, Sarah and Rebecca talked about what had happened. They were sitting on the balcony of Sarah's apartment, wrapped in blankets because December in New York was cold, drinking chamomile tea while watching the city lights. "I think Emma knows," Sarah said softly. "Maybe not with all the words, but she understands that you're special, that we are. Something more than friends." "Does that worry you?" Rebecca asked. Sarah reflected for a moment. "At first I was afraid of confusing her, but seeing her today, so happy that we were both there. I think children understand love better than we adults do. They don't complicate it with labels or expectations. They just know that someone loves them, cares for them, is present." "I love her very much," Rebecca confessed. "I never thought I could feel so much affection for someone so quickly. She's an incredible girl, Sarah, and that's thanks to you." "Thank you for loving her," Sarah responded with an emotional voice. "And thank you for loving me too, with everything that implies." They kissed under the starry December sky, feeling they had crossed an important threshold in their relationship. The arrival of the holiday season brought with it not only celebrations, but also important decisions. Sarah had been invited, as every year, to spend the holidays in rural Pennsylvania with her family. It was a tradition she had never broken, and Emma looked forward to seeing her cousins, grandparents, and aunts and uncles. But this year was different. This year, Sarah would have to decide whether to tell her parents about Rebecca, about this new chapter of her life that had transformed her in such profound and beautiful ways. "I could wait until after the holidays," Sarah reflected aloud, while she and Rebecca prepared apple pie in the kitchen one mid-December afternoon. It was a traditional recipe from her family, and Rebecca was learning the art of making the perfect lattice crust. "I don't want to ruin Christmas with tensions." Rebecca carefully placed a finished pie in the oven. But wouldn't it be harder to keep the secret for days? Especially with Emma there. You know how spontaneous she is. It was a valid point. Emma lately talked about Rebecca constantly. "Rebecca taught me how to draw shadows. Rebecca says good designers observe everything. Rebecca bought me a beautiful storybook." It was only a matter of time before the girl mentioned something revealing in front of the grandparents. The decision was finally made by Emma, unknowingly. One afternoon, while talking by video call with her maternal grandmother, the little one commented, "Grandma, can I bring Rebecca to Pennsylvania? She makes the best hot chocolate and is teaching me how to make Christmas cards with watercolors." Grandma, with natural curiosity, asked, "Who's Rebecca, sweetheart?" Emma, without any malice, responded, "She's my mom's girlfriend. Well, I think she's her girlfriend, because they kiss when they think I'm not looking, and Mom gets really happy when Rebecca's around." The silence that followed was deafening. Sarah, who had been preparing dinner in the kitchen, came running when she heard the conversation. Her face had lost all color. "Mom, she began to say, but her mother interrupted her. "Emma, honey, could you go to your room for a moment? I need to talk to your mom alone." The little one, sensing the tension but not fully understanding its origin, obeyed. Once she was gone, the conversation between Sarah and her mother was difficult. There were tears, incomprehension, difficult questions to answer. Her mother wasn't cruel, but she was clearly shocked. "I need time to process this," Mrs. Mitchell finally said. "I don't know what to say, Sarah. This is unexpected." When the video call ended, Sarah collapsed on the couch, crying. Emma came out of her room, scared to see her mother so upset. "Mommy, did I do something wrong? Is it because of what I said about Rebecca?" Sarah hugged her daughter, trying to pull herself together. "No, my love, you didn't do anything wrong. Just adults sometimes need time to understand things, that's all." Rebecca arrived an hour later, when Sarah sent her a message explaining what had happened. She found Sarah on the couch, with red and swollen eyes, while Emma drew silently in her room, clearly worried. "I'm sorry," was the first thing Sarah said when she opened the door. I'm so sorry. I didn't want you to get involved in this family drama. Rebecca hugged her tightly. You don't have to apologize. We knew this could happen. What's important is how we handle it now. They spent the night talking about options, about fears, about hopes. Rebecca proposed to Sarah that she cancel the trip to Pennsylvania if it was too stressful, but Sarah shook her head. No, I need to face this. I need my family to understand that this isn't a phase. It's not something I should be ashamed of. You're important to me, Rebecca. You're important to Emma, and we deserve to be respected. The determination in her voice deeply moved Rebecca. That woman, who had been so nervous about revealing the truth, was now ready to defend it. The following days were tense. Sarah's mother called a couple more times, the conversations gradually becoming less tense. It wasn't complete acceptance, but it was a beginning. There were genuine questions mixed with concerns, many of them related to Emma. How will this affect my granddaughter? Mrs. Mitchell asked. Will the kids at school bully her? How will you explain this? Sarah responded with patience and honesty. Emma is happy, Mom. She has 2 people who love her unconditionally. As for school, we live in a diverse city, in a different time than yours, and more importantly, we're teaching her that love is something beautiful, no matter what form it takes. Finally, an unexpected proposal arrived. Sarah's father, who had remained mostly silent throughout the process, suggested that Rebecca accompany them to Pennsylvania. If she's so important to Emma and to you, Mr. Mitchell said during a call, with a cautious but not hostile voice, then we should meet her. I don't promise it will be easy, but you're my daughter, and I want to understand your life. The invitation left Sarah speechless. Rebecca, who was listening to the conversation on speakerphone, felt a mixture of fear and hope. It was a huge opportunity, but also intimidating. You don't have to go if you don't feel comfortable, Sarah said after hanging up. It's asking a lot. Meeting the parents is always stressful, and these circumstances make everything more complicated. Rebecca took Sarah's hands in hers. I want to go. I want your family to meet me, to see that my intentions are genuine, that I love you and I love Emma. It won't be easy, I know, but things worth having rarely are. Emma, who had been listening from her room, came running out. Rebecca's coming to Pennsylvania with us? Really? Yes. I'm going to show her the covered bridge and the farm and all the pretty places. Her enthusiasm was contagious, and both Rebecca and Sarah couldn't help but laugh despite the tension. That girl had the gift of reminding them what really mattered. Love, joy, the possibility of creating new memories together. The days before the trip were of intense preparations. Emily helped Rebecca choose appropriate gifts for Sarah's parents, suggesting traditional but personal details. A good bottle of bourbon for the father, she advised, and for the mother, perhaps something handmade, something that shows effort and consideration. Rebecca ended up designing and printing a personalized photo album with images of Emma from the last months, many of which she herself had taken. It was a gift that showed her genuine affection for the family, her desire to be part of their lives, to preserve their important moments. The night before the trip, the 3 dined together at Sarah's apartment. Emma was super excited, talking nonstop about everything she would show Rebecca in her hometown. Sarah was nervous but determined, and Rebecca, despite her own fears, felt a deep peace. She was exactly where she wanted to be, next to the woman she loved, and the girl who had come to be considered a fundamental part of her life. The drive to rural Pennsylvania was an experience in itself. Emma sat by the window, pointing out every interesting detail of the changing landscape. The rolling hills, the farmlands, the small towns that appeared and disappeared along the highway. Sarah and Rebecca shared the back seat, with their hands discreetly intertwined under the jacket resting on their laps. "Thank you for doing this," Sarah whispered, while Emma was distracted watching how the clouds cast shadows over the hills. "You don't have to thank me," Rebecca responded. "I want to be here. I want to know where you come from, understand the part of you that formed in those streets you love so much." They arrived at the small Pennsylvania town at dusk. The rural town welcomed them with its tree-lined streets, its colonial-style houses, and that atmosphere that mixes history and simplicity. The Mitchell family lived in a traditional house near the town square, with white clapboard siding and a front porch full of potted poinsettias. Sarah's parents were waiting at the door. Mr. Mitchell, a man of medium height with completely gray hair and kind eyes behind thick glasses, first greeted his granddaughter with an effusive hug. Mrs. Mitchell, an elegant woman with her hair in a neat bun and a cautious expression, hugged her daughter with contained emotion. When it came time for introductions, there was a brief but significant silence. "Mom, Dad," Sarah said with a firm voice, "this is Rebecca Morgan. She's very important to me and to Emma." Rebecca extended her hand, but to her surprise, Mr. Mitchell ignored it and instead offered a cordial hug. "Welcome to our home, Rebecca. Anyone important to my daughter and my granddaughter is welcome here." Mrs. Mitchell was more reserved, but equally polite. She accepted the handshake and nodded with a small smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Please come in. You must be tired from the drive." The first few days were of careful adjustment. Sarah's extended family gradually arrived. Aunts, uncles, cousins. Some were openly curious, others cautiously kind, some clearly uncomfortable but making efforts to be civil. Rebecca gradually earned the family's respect, not with grand gestures, but with constant and genuine actions. She helped in the kitchen preparing Christmas dinner, listened attentively to the stories Grandpa told about the town's history, played with Emma's younger cousins, and always showed gratitude for the hospitality received. The decisive moment came on Christmas Eve. The family had planned to go to midnight mass, something they did every year. Emma was super excited to participate, and held tightly to her mother's and Rebecca's hands as they walked through the streets decorated with Christmas lights. During the walk, one of Sarah's uncles made a derogatory comment in a low voice, loud enough for Rebecca to hear. It was something about confusing children with non-traditional lifestyles. Rebecca felt her face flush, but before she could respond, it was Mrs. Mitchell who intervened. "That's enough, Robert," she said firmly. "Look at Emma. Do you see her confused? She's radiant with happiness. She has a mother who adores her, and now she has Rebecca, who clearly cares for her with the same love. What more can we ask for our children than love and care?" The silence that followed was profound. Robert muttered an apology and walked away. Mrs. Mitchell continued walking, but Sarah stopped her gently. "Thank you, Mom," she said with an emotional voice. Her mother took her face in her hands. "You're my daughter. Maybe I don't completely understand all of this. Maybe it will take me time to get used to it. But I love you. And if Rebecca makes you happy, if she's good to my granddaughter, then she deserves my respect." Then she turned to Rebecca. "Take care of my daughter. Take care of my granddaughter. That's all I ask." Rebecca, with tears in her eyes, nodded. "I will. I promise I will." That night, after Emma fell asleep exhausted from excitement, Rebecca and Sarah went out to the small balcony of the room they shared. The lights of the small town twinkled in the distance, creating a dreamlike landscape. "I can't believe what your mom did," Rebecca said, still processing the moment. "I was expecting tolerance at best, but this—" "My mother is a wise woman," Sarah responded. "She may be traditional, but she's also deeply loving. She just needed time to see that this is real, that it's genuine." They kissed under the starry Pennsylvania sky, feeling they had overcome a monumental obstacle on their path together. The rest of the festivities passed with growing warmth. The family gradually opened their hearts, asking genuine questions, including Rebecca in conversations and traditions. It wasn't perfect, complete acceptance, but it was a beautiful and hopeful beginning. The day before returning to New York, Mrs. Mitchell called Rebecca aside while they were preparing coffee in the kitchen. "I want to give you something," she said, taking out a small carved wooden box. Inside was an antique silver locket. "This locket belonged to my grandmother. I've kept it to give to someone special in Sarah's life. I thought it would be for a son-in-law, but things don't always turn out as we plan, do they?" Rebecca took the locket with trembling hands. "Mrs. Mitchell, I can't accept this. It's too valuable." "That's precisely why you should accept it," Sarah's mother insisted. "It's my way of telling you that you're part of this family now. It won't always be easy. There will be family members who will need more time. But I accept you. I accept what you represent in my daughter's and granddaughter's life." Both women hugged, crying, while in the yard Emma played with her cousins, oblivious to the profound moment developing in the kitchen. The return to New York was completely different from the trip there. There was no longer nervousness or uncertainty, but a deep peace and the certainty that, together, they could face any challenge. Final CTA. If you enjoyed this story and want to see more content like this, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell. Give the video a thumbs up and tell me in the comments, what was your favorite part of this story? I love reading your opinions. See you in the next video. 6 months after the trip to Pennsylvania, on a sunny June afternoon, Rebecca, Sarah, and Emma were strolling through Central Park. The little one ran ahead chasing butterflies, while the two women walked hand in hand, without hiding, without fear. "Do you remember that night at the Garden Cafe?" Rebecca asked suddenly. Sarah smiled. "How could I forget? It was the night Emma decided to be our personal Cupid. I was so alone that night. I felt rejected, out of place. And then this incredible girl appeared and changed everything." "You weren't the only one who felt rejected," Sarah confessed. "I was also sitting there, pretending I didn't care that my sister had canceled, thinking I would always be alone, that no one would want a relationship with a busy single mom." Emma came running back to them, with a yellow flower she had found. "Look, it's the same color as Rebecca's eyes when the sun hits them." Both women laughed. That perceptive girl continued to be their little Cupid, always finding ways to remind them how lucky they were to have found each other. As they walked back home, with Emma between them holding one hand of each, Rebecca reflected on how a single night, a simple act of childish kindness, had completely transformed her life. She was no longer the lonely woman who arrived at the cafe that October night. Now she was part of something beautiful, a non-traditional family perhaps, but full of love, respect, and joy. The future remained uncertain in many ways, but there was something Rebecca was completely sure of. As long as she had Sarah and Emma by her side, she was exactly where she needed to be. And it had all begun with a 6-year-old girl who dared to approach and ask, "You're alone, right? My mom too. Why don't you sit together?" Sometimes, Rebecca thought, the happiest endings begin with the simplest beginnings. The end.